Welcome to Gifted Underachievers, the podcast for mid-level creatives with delusional ambitions. In this segment, Pat and James talk about when the mental load is too much. How do we create space for mental rest when we can't walk away from work, family, and life in general?
Hey, James.
Yes, Pat, I'm here.
Oh, good. You know, I've been out in the Gifted Underachievers clubhouse yard, the back 40,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
just smelling the clover and rolling around in the grass.
Is this your way of telling me I need to get out there and mow?
No, that's not it.
Okay,
I don't do
okay.
pink jobs, blue jobs. That's not even where I'm going with this.
Okay.
That's inimical to everybody's well-being. So what I
Okay.
would what I have been thinking is I'm having trouble forcing myself to sit at my desk and
Yeah.
work on stuff regardless of how interesting it is. And I initially thought, it's like the last month of school where you're just like you're staring out the window all the time, just can't wait for the
Hmm.
bell to go because the weather's better. Here it is anyways.
Yeah.
And the trees are blooming and everything is just like just desperate, right, to get out. And I have that kind of vibe happening with work stuff. And so I wondered about you.
Yes. Yeah. I have I have the exact same thing working.
Mm,
And it's funny when you mention like a kid in school waiting for summer break.
yeah,
There's not really anything that I'm looking forward to. You know what I
right,
mean? It's like, yeah, summer is nice and um having some warmer weather. Right now we're stuck in kind of the 50s and some days it can be really damp, but
right.
Um, and so yes, that would be nice. But I'm not really sitting here going, oh, come July, I'm gonna get some big block of time off, or come June. It's just that the mind is feeling a little wandering right now.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. I've been having trouble focusing, and so um, I can still do it, but it seems to take more effort. And I need more breaks, basically. I get up out of my
Hmm.
chair more often and do something and then
Hmm.
come back. And I think so I'm wondering as well, and this is something you mentioned earlier, which was our minds are tired, right? There's something
Yeah.
about the last several months, and maybe, it's common to everybody. Maybe it's winter is tiring.
Hmm.
There's a lot of shit going on in the world that's quite tiring. We've both had big life changes in the last several months,
Yep.
big major life events. Uh, so it could be part of that. But like you say, there is no, when you're a kid, you're like, I get to be barefoot for the next 2 months. I don't have to do anything I don't want to do except
My
my
knees
chores
are
at,
going to be
yeah.
I used to get so excited because my knees were not going to be washed between June and September.
Your
I
knees.
was gonna be encrusted in dirt and baseball and
Yeah,
uh and I like mowing the yard. That was the one thing that was never a big hassle for my parents to get me to do. I
awesome.
still love to mow grass with a push mower
Well,
for
that's so
whatever
great.
reason. I don't know why. So yeah, covered in all that dust and grass and out
Yeah.
there and riding the bikes and all that kind of
Oh
stuff. Yeah.
God, the bike riding. And we would have stuff like in the summer before we all learned how to swim at a pretty good level. We would ride our bikes, a couple miles to the swimming pool. And the youngest, my little brother, he would have been 5, right? We're riding through a city.
Yeah.
The oldest one's 10, the youngest one's 5, 4 of us in a row with our swimming suits in our towels on the front basket. The girls had a basket. I don't know what the boys did. But just like mom's got, she was a teacher, so she was home in the summer. She's reading a book on the back deck because that's her time
Yeah.
off too. So it's like a totally different phase of
Yeah.
life. I don't think I've had that as an adult where the summer is actually a vacation time
Oh
unless
yeah.
I,
You know,
you
and
know.
and I got to tell that this is completely, beside the point, but like your mom, my mom was like your mom. She had a Diet Pepsi. She's out in the backyard. She's like a tomato, hot and humid, and she's happy. And she's in
Yeah.
her lounge chair with a book, doing that thing. Meanwhile, my brother, our neighbor, and I are off like creating havoc, or taking monumental risks with our lives. Or, we'd have like this group of kids we'd play baseball with. And one time somebody hit the ball into the neighbor's yard, and the woman comes over and starts yelling at us, holding the ball and not giving it back. And the smallest, littlest kid, it was the littlest kid amongst us,
Uh-huh.
yells at her, "Throw the ball back, you old hag."
Ballsy. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
so
he had
good.
it good. It's so yeah, so there's this, the summer vibe. So maybe that's part of our distraction, is this innate, kind of almost migratory like
Yeah.
urge to be outside and doing something different.
Yeah, like a cellular programming. And my mom died last summer, so that it was a bit of a shit show. She died at the end of July. I mean,
Mhm.
it went as well as that kind of thing can go, but there was zero time to chill out. And
Mhm.
I felt guilty about the little bit of time I did carve out to do fun stuff because I was behind at work basically. Um,
Yeah.
and then with your it's okay if I talk about your dad passing away?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. He
okay.
he pat April 8th, Wednesday,
Yeah.
April 8th.
So,
Uh,
your dad passing away recently, like there's the kind of the time of life responsibility load is actually higher than I would have expected.
yeah. Well, it's interesting because so my mom died in 2019, dad now this year. And
Hmm.
so going from, he was 95 and a half, so it's not like some tragic
Yeah.
past. Though it's sad, it's the cycle of life, and that all that kind of stuff. But taking care of him from afar, because he wanted to stay in his house, but making sure people were showing up for him, paying his bills, da da da. Then he's in the hospital for about 2 months, driving 5 hours up, 5 hours back,
Mm.
racing around. And then I was with him when he died, which
Yeah.
was good and very powerful and humbling. Um, but literally, I don't want to say immediately with his last breath, but I spent about a half an hour with him after he had died, and there was nobody else in the room, and I had to go out in the hall and say, "Hey, my dad just died." But it was after I did that that there was this sensation of, what do I do now?
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And it was like, as a caretaker, when the person you're caretaking for is no longer there, I was like lost for a minute. And then you get into all of the business of somebody dying.
Yeah.
And, so you're still caretaking, really.
You are. It's the machinery of death can be, and we were talking about banks and government
Mhm.
offices and bills and all of the
Yeah. Planning
details
a
of somebody's
funeral,
life. Hmm?
yeah,
What?
planning a funeral and
Oh God,
navigating
yeah.
other people's expectations and,
Yeah. And just for I have three siblings, so and we liked all our decisions to be fairly joint. Like my sister Jane and I were doing the work, but or a lot of the work, but the kind of I would never pick a venue for the celebration of life without everybody's buy-in. I didn't, everybody
Mhm.
was kind of away. I didn't have anybody here when I was organizing all that stuff. So I'd be like sending links to the menu and going, I like these things. What do you think? And then,
Mhm. Mhm.
I just kind of went through it, but because that's my former industry, I know how to do that stuff. It wasn't very hard, but it was time consuming. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
that kind of thing can take a long time, um, a lot of time.
Yeah. And, and it takes a lot of mental space, because you're also
Absolutely.
dealing with mourning. I mean, I have no problem saying that my relationship with my dad was complicated.
Hmm.
And it was interesting when I was talking to the funeral director who was gonna, deal with my dad's body and all that kind of stuff. Um, he asked me some questions and he asked me something kind of related, were you close type thing. And I said, well, it's complicated. And he was
Mhm.
my age and he says, we're of a generation of men who had complicated fathers.
Yeah,
That's
makes
just
sense.
that's just where it is. So,
Yeah.
navigating all that emotional terrain. And, it's funny because I have a joy when I sit down to work.
Yeah, me too.
Um, and I really do. And I've always had it, but it's a little bit more pronounced now.
Yeah.
And part of it is I really, really like the people I'm working with right
Yeah.
now and the subject matter and that kind of thing. So that helps. But even with that joy of sitting down, there's a lot of kind of staring out the window.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
yeah.
yeah,
And
I did I had the same experience. I love my job, and it's intellectually stimulating, and it's emotionally satisfying, and all that is great. And I found, so anyway, not to get too far into the weeds, the idea then that we have uh we have this sort of level, this baseline level of kind of, I don't want to call it exhaustion, but it's like a lot going on.
mhm,
And then there's the sort of spring fever aspect for me, which is I just really want to be outside when the weather's nice, and I've
mhm.
always had that going, but I'm not as I don't really sunbathe or anything, I don't, it's more like I just like being outside. And
Yeah.
so there's that. And then there's the idea that we don't have this block of time to look forward to, or even anything booked. I don't have anything booked.
Yeah.
I mean, and the amount of juggling I have to do to get, say, even a week off is tremendous. It's like a
Oh,
lot.
it's
I have
huge.
to, yeah, it's a big deal. So the idea of trying to carve out a week, I'm like, well, it's almost easier not to. Um, and then there's the
Yeah.
expense of going somewhere that isn't your place. If I have a week off and because I work in my house or in my home, I don't really feel like I'm off if my work's right there, and I've got a
Right.
lot of personal projects I want to do. So it's like, is it really a week off? But then going somewhere, it's heavy tourist
I
season. This
know.
is a very tourist town, so we have to kind of find a place to go that isn't overrun and super expensive because all the Germans are here or all the, you know. Thank Christ, not so many Americans are coming up because
Uh,
they're not that welcome.
oh, don't say
They can
that.
they can
I
just
want to
fuck
go to
off.
Quebec. My desire is to go to Quebec right now.
Yeah,
So, and
yeah.
if anybody's going to be nasty, it's going to be those Quebecois.
Oh no, they're fucking great. And any tourist economy, we're never gonna be, especially Canadians are never gonna be rude to them unless, we're all hammered up or something because we're like, yeah, bring your money.
I know, I know. Well, you don't want to go to Caesar Fest, probably.
The
You
fuck is
know,
Caesar Fest? Are you making that up right now?
no, but isn't that the where you all get together and you have your Caesars drinks?
No, that's Canada Day.
No, no, no. I
I'm
mean the
kidding.
drink, you silly.
You're funny.
See, now
Uh,
you're driving me. Mental exhaustion.
what's that?
Mental exhaustion.
I know. Okay, so let's see now. This is the situation. Do we have a do we have like a plan of attack to kind of honor our situations, accept that maybe we just
Yeah. Well,
we
well, so let's to back up just a little bit. So this started because Pat sent me an email just sort of saying, I'm having the toughest time concentrating and
yeah,
focusing for extended periods of time, right? And
yeah.
just feeling like I need to get up and get out and away. And my mind's, wandering about wanting to do different things. And I said, yeah, me too, exactly.
Hmm.
And said, I think we've been through a lot and we're suffering through a bit of mental exhaustion.
Yeah.
And so I think the question is, now that we've noticed it,
Yeah,
as opposed to sort of the frog in the slowly boiling pot.
right.
We've noticed it. What are we going to do? Because the work isn't going to go away, and we can't stop working. So where do you place that?
That's a good
Having a
question.
conversation like this helps,
Yeah.
I think, but come Monday or Sunday night, even I might be a little bit like, "Whew, it's another week.
Yeah.
I wish I had some more space."
Yeah, yeah, and I agree 100%. Well, I'm going to a funeral for 2 days, like because it's
Mm,
6 hours away, and I got to stay in a hotel for a couple nights. And I'm like, well, there goes everything, right? I don't have time to do
mhm,
anything at home now because I'm spending my days off going somewhere else, which is great. I like getting away. It's a
mhm,
cool city I'm going to, so it's all great. But I think maybe for me, I know when my projects are going to end. I have a good idea because I set
mhm.
the due dates for stuff. So I could potentially I I could look at my schedule and go, those projects are both going to end this day, or whatever
Mhm.
this they're going to end within a week of each other, which is also when the course I'm running is probably going to be drawing to a close. And then I'll have another 2 or 3 weeks of really serious time and energy to spend on wrapping stuff up for those different um, projects. And then, what if I gave myself something to look forward to? What if I went,
Yeah.
well, what if I tried to do not necessarily a house swap? I can't do that because my daughter, one of my kids lives with me, but and she'll be here because she's got a job in for the
Mhm.
summer in a hotel. But what if what if I start looking around for something that I can go have, just have some rest,
Yeah.
basically?
Well, maybe, and I feel the same way when you said, even if you're not working in your home, it still kind of feels like
Yeah,
being at work. I should be in my office kind of thoughts.
yeah,
So I was about to say, maybe having something that breaks up your day that you could really look forward to, or that comes, you cut out a little earlier
yeah.
in the day, and it's something that you really look forward to. And it could be, I'm going to go, I don't know how many museums Vancouver has, but I'm sure more than five,
Lots,
probably.
yeah, quite a few.
And so you could go say, I'm going to hit every museum, in Vancouver over however many, days, or, you
Or
know,
weeks.
stuff like that.
Yeah,
You kind of give yourself something to get excited for, that you can go to, that gets you out of the house,
that's an
but
awesome
doesn't
idea.
require having, getting an Airbnb or
Yeah,
hotel, something like that.
I like that a lot because, cutting out early once a week to go to the Vancouver Police Museum really floats my boat, but I was there
Yeah.
fairly recently. There's art galleries, there's museums, there's open air concerts and stuff
Mhm.
like that. Just looking at the local calendar and then saying, okay, I'm going to leave the office at 4 on Fridays because who gives a shit? Most of my people that I work with are on East Coast time or Europe
Mhm.
time, even Central European time. So
Yeah.
so
They're
they're long
asleep.
gone. Huh?
Yeah. They're asleep, or,
Yeah,
they've
whatever. They're
never.
not looking for stuff from me. And that will serve a couple of purposes because that book, what is it now called? The Artist's Way or something?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh
Sure.
I forget who wrote it, but she's Julia Cameron maybe?
Perhaps. I mean, The Artist's Way, big famous book,
Yeah,
probably
okay.
everybody
So
listening
in
knows.
there she talks about artist dates where you take yourself
Mhm.
out to do something creative and it doesn't matter really what it is, it's to fill the well or stock the pond.
Mhm.
And I just never do that. The closest I get is traveling. Like when I went to Spain, that was great because I was doing that every day. But um, I could do that like until I can take a few days off.
Yeah. The challenge that I have is because, my dad was in the hospital, and
Yeah.
there was a lot of time spent with him and helping him. I now have to ramp up, right?
Yeah,
So
you're
I've
behind.
gone from ramped up to where I have to ramp up even more
Right.
to get my projects in line, and moving in the ways that they need to be moving.
Yeah,
So I'm trying to figure out, how do I ramp up but create mental space,
that's a good one.
or even physical space. And, so one is that the idea that we've just been talking about, cut out early one day a week,
Yeah.
set one day a week as a cut out early day. And then maybe say, I'm gonna give myself the challenge of I have to reach these uh, places with these projects in a month, and if I can do that, I'm gonna take a Thursday, Friday, Saturday off.
That's really great.
With
Yeah.
a comeback on Sunday kind of thing, and have that as something to look forward to. So,
Yeah.
giving myself a little bit of a challenge and, diving deeper in time-wise to work,
Yeah.
but maybe having, that day a week and something to look forward to.
I think that makes sense. So you're incentivizing your milestones, really, if you think of it
Hmm.
that way, by attaching, oh, if I hit that one on these dates, then I get
Hmm.
these dates. And there's nothing like time off to motivate me to work a little longer. Um,
Hmm.
so it depends. Like I think you're about where I was last year. Actually, after my mom
Hmm.
died, she died in middle of the summer, and I could not ramp down. I couldn't do it. I'd already spent so much time that I wasn't behind, but I could not in any way afford to stop grinding. Like I had to double down
Hmm.
basically. There was less time spent with my mom at the hospice, which was freed me up a little bit, but not, I would just fill it with work because I was behind.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and it gets filled with just the business stuff,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
talking
All
about
of it.
too. And, so the other question though that I have is, this is all well and good, taking a little bit more, trying to find spaces to take a little bit of time off.
Yeah.
But, how do you address that mental fatigue, kind of tiredness, from a more sort of embodied perspective, I think,
Yeah.
or you know, you know, and sort of the common one is, well, go do yoga, go do meditation, but that gets you,
You
that's
adding
taking
something.
time to go. You're adding something,
Yeah.
so what is a mindset change that we could do?
Well, I've been talking to one of our Gifted Achiever guests, Carrie McConkey,
Ah, ah,
and
brilliant.
she and I have been talking about the idea of transitions between
Hmm.
tasks, actually
Hmm.
being more conscious about when you stop doing one thing before you do the next thing. Take a bit of
Hmm.
a transition so that you are not jumping from one thing to the next. And it can be 5 minutes, like, but I think that I'm trying to be way more conscious of it. I've been trying it for like, I guess a couple of weeks now. And what
Hmm.
I find is that the texture of my days is a little better. It's not as
Oh, nice.
bumpy. Like even before we started taping today, it was 8:51 for me. So we start at 9 on Fridays and in my time zone. And I was like, you know what? That's probably a good time for me to transition. I was doing something else, and I thought I
Hmm.
should stop. I should go turn on the light in my office, open the computer, attach the mic, do the stuff I need to do, and then I should do something else for a few minutes, and then,
Hmm.
start. And so I didn't exactly stop, but I I swept the floor, which I find incredibly
Ah,
relaxing. It's probably how you feel about mowing the lawn.
yeah.
I just
Yeah.
really like a broom. I like wielding a broom. I must be like half witch or something because I'm like, you know what? That broom feels good. And I like seeing the, little ball of fluff
Beating
and
raccoons out of the condo.
yeah. So it doesn't have to be anything in particular, but just being conscious, I guess, being aware that
Yeah.
you're not waiting till 8:59 and then running into the office, flipping everything on and sitting down all breathless. You're like slowing down between tasks so you
Hmm.
can, I guess, have that kind of and it really is what you call it, mindfulness,
Hmm.
the conscious, the observer, basically, the witness consciousness sees you doing your shit and goes, just take a few minutes here.
Yeah. And that's interesting, so it's about ritual, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, kind of.
And so I'm working with a client and I don't want to get too deep in it because this is her content.
Right.
But she talks about having rituals to help you set your mind,
Yeah.
um, and focus, and you have one for the morning, and then if something comes up during the day and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
And she has wonderful ideas, and she'd be great to have on when the book is done. But
right.
and then I think about Carrie,
Yeah,
who's a very religious person,
yeah,
you'd say a person of faith.
yeah,
And it feels like, you know, the question is, do we miss something if we don't have faith in our lives, right? And I'm not
yeah,
saying that you have like this is about a religiosity type thing, like go out and get a religion and that'll make you feel better. But just, people who have regular routines. One of the things that I've, thought about is in Japan they have Shintoism, and
yeah.
there's shrines all over the place, and there's a
Mm,
very uh traditional way of prayer where you slap your hands and you light incense, I think, and you can go do this any time of day, and you can do it
yeah.
anywhere. We'll have them in your home and that kind of thing. And it sounds like, I'm Quaker, but mostly secular. But I think there's ways from that perspective to bring some ritual into life.
Now, isn't that an interesting idea? And we were just talking about your photo albums of your family and how you found this great photo of
Mhm.
your mom looking like a young writer. And
Yeah.
I have this spot on my it's on a counter, and I change out the objects on it. So I have this tray that's probably just a stainless steel round tray with a lip on it
Mhm.
that's maybe 20 inches across, if that. And in there, I have what I just change up. It's like a little display. It's not an altar. It's nothing like that. But I have like, I'll change the picture out. If something's
Yeah.
happening with my brother, I'll put a picture of my brother up there. And it's not always conscious. I come across a picture, I put it up there. I'll take down the one that's there. It's sort of a little rotating art gallery kind of thing. And even
Mhm.
something as simple as that has an element of ritual to it because what it does is it puts the thing that you're dealing with that is like for example possibly your dad's death or just the idea that you no longer have a living parent.
Mhm.
It puts that, it kind of honors that so that you can,
Yeah.
it honors you in a way, it honors your own experience. It's not like business as usual, just get over it. It's more like this is happening and this is my little area that I'm acknowledging that with.
Yeah. And I think, you can, like, with Carrie saying you need that moment in between transitioning from one thing to the next.
Yeah,
And that can be in the workspace. I'm going from, writing about one thing to writing about another thing, but
yeah,
having a moment in there that's where there's some sense of ritual or practice,
yeah,
um, of for that transition that gets you maybe up and doing something for a minute or two,
yeah.
so it's not like a big, it's going to take time out of the day, because that's the other anxiety, right?
No,
Is that
exactly.
it's only so long.
Yeah.
And for you it's grabbing your broom and shooing all the raccoons out of your condo.
Where are you
And
coming from with this raccoon in the condo
I
thing?
just remember I've had to do it.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, now you're putting it on my personal history. It didn't happen to me, buddy.
No, it happened to me,
Yeah.
and they get angry. They don't like it.
No, raccoons are fierce.
Yeah, they
I
can be
we've
rather
yeah, I've
nasty
experienced
critters.
raccoon. Yeah, and so I just realized when you were talking about that kind of changing tasks. So I never work on just one book at a time like you. I work on more than one at a
Mhm.
time. I do a different type of work on them, but um right now I have three books on the go, and I have a little mini ritual, which is I keep timesheets because I want to know how much time something
Mhm.
takes me. So when I work with that writer again, I can say, well, this book was this many thousand words and it took this long to do all of the steps. And so this is a very small ritual, but I'll get up, I'll leave the room for a minute, I'll come back, I'll close the usually I'll close the folder where I keep my timesheet with the client's name on it and the title of the book. I just have a paper folder. I don't keep them after the project is done, but I have them while
Mhm.
I'm working on it. It says visual reminder too, and I have this wall file thing. And so before I leave the room, I'll close that folder, write down my end time, how far I got, close that folder, put it in my wall hanging thing, and then when I come back, I'll look at my to-do list for the day. I'll take down the next folder. I'll open it up and I'll write down my start time and open up all their documents on the screen. Za. And that seems to serve the purpose of directing my attention for a focused period, because once you write your start time down, you're working on that project. There's nothing
Mm-hmm.
else you're doing with your mind. And the other thing is I see their name on the folder and I think I picture them in my mind's eye, even if I don't know what they look like. A lot of them I do because we meet on Zoom. But
Mm-hmm.
even if I'm not sure what they look like, I have a picture of them based on whatever manuscript I'm working on. And that centers me around them, you know?
Mm-hmm. And then, so then the next piece of this is, we're working away, and that moment of, I want to be out. I'm looking out the
Yeah.
window,
Yeah.
and and that's not there's not a ritual or a practice. It's really just you have to shift your mind to go back, be at work,
Ah,
right? And it's, I mean, it's really it's the mind reading your body and its own, sort of thinking and mean and whatnot, saying, I'm tired. I want
yeah.
to be in another space.
Yeah.
And having to shift from that to like, I mean, it's almost like sort of saying no,
Hmm.
to the dog that wants to go for a walk. It's like, it's not walk time right now.
Yeah.
And for me, I think, it's reminding, I think having all these things that we've talked about, like in the incentivization
Yeah.
of, well, if I take this time off, it's going to put me behind on what I'm trying to do to get done in 30 days so I can take that little bit of time off.
Yeah.
Um, but I think there's also just no, I have responsibility here. I need to be here for these people because, they're relying on me, and this is what I'm meant to do and where I'm meant to be right now.
Yeah, so kind of asserting, your authority over your spring fever mind, I guess.
Hmm.
However, I would also like to say standing up and walking around the house and going back in the front door is a possibility when your body is telling your mind that the body needs to do something. I think we can get you know, it would be very difficult not to do. I'll jump out of my chair. Like I'll
Hmm.
literally push my chair against the wall and just get the fuck out of here. And then, but I'm back in like 2 minutes. I just really
Yeah.
needed to listen to my body because we sit for such long periods, right? Depending on what
Yeah.
kind of art you do. I think, for me, I can't force myself to sit here. I can actually give myself 2 minutes and then come back.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think, yes to that. And I think though that there are times where I'm just in the writing process and that
Yeah,
thought comes and I got to push it away
yeah,
because
right.
I'm not in a, even walking away for a couple of minutes, I'm going to lose my
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, I agree.
and so it's that sort of disciplining uh these thoughts
Yeah.
in a way,
It's a
which is like I hear
stick-to-itiveness.
you, like it's like acknowledging I hear you, I know the need, I feel the need, I
Yeah.
agree,
Yeah.
but I got to be right here now.
Yeah. No, I've had that same experience where, the restlessness is not coming from the body. It's coming from this part's hard and I don't want to do it right now.
Hmm.
Maybe I'll feel better about doing it, later. But those things you've got to kind of ride because there's no other way to get creative work
Hmm.
done. You like the avoidance tendency can be pretty strong. But I mean, I'm not really that avoidant about creative work. However, I do think that when you're really tired, it's harder to uh, assert authority
Yeah.
over your restlessness. And I agree that it has to be done. If you're gonna, like, I work in 90-minute blocks usually, sometimes an hour, sometimes 30
Hmm.
minutes, but often I try to work 90 minutes because that seems to be a good rhythm for me to get into. And I might make my blocks shorter for an entire day and just say I'm only going to do an hour at a time, and then I'm going to get up
Hmm.
and chase my
And have a
tail.
couple of minutes
Yeah,
just walking around, getting some
yeah,
fresh air.
yeah.
You know,
And then what
no,
I
I think that's great.
Yeah, and I have a voice memo recorder. I have like pads and pencils all over the place. So if I get an idea, because I have the same issue, right? You're working on something, you're right on the edge of a realization, and if you stop now, um, you might lose it. Uh,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
so that kind of
yeah,
yeah, it's a push-pull.
yeah. Well, and there's definitely that, like, and this is very much about being, creativity in general as opposed to specifically what we're talking about. But being able to recognize where, no, I need to sit here and piece this through because my
Yeah,
mind is where it needs to be able to do it.
yeah,
Whereas there are other times where, no, you need to let it down and walk away and
yeah,
come back with a fresh set of eyes and mind,
yeah. So
So,
I guess
yeah,
knowing yourself then is one of our things that we're suggesting
yeah,
might be a solution, is just knowing when it's one thing and when it's something else.
right. Yeah. No, I'm all for you. And yeah, so I think we've, got some good ideas. And we're gonna come into, we always record on Fridays,
Yeah.
folks. And so this gives us something to set up for next week.
Well, that's a
Although
good
I'm gonna be
idea.
working Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, I'm gonna work Saturday. I got to drive on Sunday, but or not drive, but ride. So,
Yeah.
go somewhere. It's a funeral. So, yeah, I think that's a really good. I'm gonna try and come up with something for next week. Boom!
Yeah. And it's not an experiment.
Don't get me started on the experiments.
I know. I know. I know. We might come up with yet another experiment.
They're all good. I have to say, the
Yeah.
experiments are actually quite valuable. So, whatever.
And they're a lot of fun.
They're so much fun.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. All
See
right.
you later, Pat. Have fun in the backyard at the clubhouse. And I trust me, I will be back there to mow. The clover's getting a little high.
Okay, up to you.
Thanks for listening to Gifted Underachievers, the podcast for mid-level creatives with delusional ambitions. We'd love to hear how we're doing, so please leave a comment, join our chat page, or send us an email at giftedunderachievers@substack.com. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else you like to download your podcast. And as always, please hit the share and or subscribe button. It really does help us out a lot. And again, as always, please have an awesome day.